So the Devata advised him, so that was helpful for him also. 9.6. On one occasion, the Venerable Anuruddha was dwelling among the Kosalans in a certain woodland thicket. Then a certain Devata of the Tavatimsa host named Jalini, a former consort of the Venerable Anuruddha, approached him and addressed him in verse. I'll stop here for a moment. This Venerable Anuruddha was one of the Arahants with great psychic power. He could see 1,000-fold world systems like in the palm of his hand. His mind has expanded so much that he could see 1,000 worlds in the palm of his hand. So here, his former wife from the heaven of the 33 Devas, Tavatimsa heaven, that means the second heaven above the second heaven in the sensual desire realm. So the former wife of Venerable Anuruddha came to see him and addressed him in verse. Direct your mind there to that realm where you dwelt in the past among the Tavatimsa Devas, for whom all desires are fulfilled. You will shine forth highly honored, surrounded by celestial maidens. Let's stop here for a while. So here you see the former wife is telling him to direct his mind to the Tavatimsa heaven. Why? Because if he directs his mind to the Tavatimsa heaven, constantly thinks of the Tavatimsa heaven, then it's likely that he will be reborn there again. This is what the wife wanted. Then he said, miserable are celestial maidens established in identity, and miserable too are those beings attached to celestial maidens. And the Devi said, they do not know bliss who have not seen Nandana, the abode of the glorious male Devas, belonging to the hosts of 30. This Nandana is the Nandana grove, where the Devas enjoy sensual pleasures. And Venerable Anuruddha said, don't you know, you fool, that maxim of the Arahants, impermanent are all formations, their nature is to arise and cease. Having arisen, they cease. Their appeasement is blissful. This is one of the chants we just did just now. Anicca, Vata, Sankara, Upada, Vaya, Dhammino, this one. And then finally Venerable Anuruddha said, now I will never again dwell among the Deva host Jalini. The wandering on in birth is ended. Now there is no more renewed existence. That's the end of the sutta. So this former wife, this Devi, must have been disappointed to hear that he's not going to take rebirth anymore. Another sutta, 9.9. On one occasion, a certain monk, a virgin prince, was dwelling at Vesali in a certain woodland thicket. Now on that occasion, an all-night festival was being held in Vesali. Then that monk, lamenting as he heard the clamor of instruments, gongs and music coming from Vesali, on that occasion recited this verse, we dwell in the forest all alone, like a dog rejected in the woods. On such a splendid night as this, who is there worse off than us? Then that Devata that inhabited that woodland thicket, having compassion for that monk, desiring his good, desiring to stir up a sense of urgency in him, approached him and addressed him in verse. As you dwell in the forest all alone, like a log rejected in the woods, many are those who envy you, as hell beings envy those going to heaven. Then that monk, stirred up by that Devata, acquired a sense of urgency. That's the end of the sutta. So you see here, this monk, he was trying to practice, and he was struggling in his practice, finding it so difficult. And then suddenly he hears all this beautiful music in the distance that makes him even more disturbed. So he was lamenting, he was in sorrowful condition. And then the Deva came to ask him, you are not in a sorrowful condition. Many envy your position, just like those hell beings who are bound for hell, who are going to hell, will see people like you going to heaven. This reminds me, many years ago when I was in Thailand, I was practicing in a cave. I also had a similar experience like this. I was practicing and my mind was not coming together, my meditation was not coming together. And I was alone in that cave and I was quite miserable. And then I heard this this taxi driving some people to the village. And they were blaring all this beautiful Thai sentimental music. That also disturbed me more. So I was thinking, what the blooming hell am I doing here, away from my home, away from my country? But then there was for a short while only. So I didn't think too long, otherwise some deva would kind of disturb me. 9.10. On one occasion, a certain monk was dwelling among the Kosalans in a certain woodland thicket. Now, on that occasion, that monk had been excessively engrossed in recitation, chanting. But on a later occasion, he passed the time living at ease and keeping silent. Then that Devata that inhabited that woodland thicket, no longer hearing that monk recite the Dhamma, approached him and addressed him in verse. Monk, why don't you recite Dhamma stanzas, living in communion with other monks? Hearing the Dhamma, one gains confidence. In this very life, the reciter gains praise. I'll stop here for a moment. So here this Deva, so used to this monk chanting the Dhamma, here probably means chanting the Suttas, because the Buddhas, during the Buddha's time, they did not have books. So the monks will repeat the Suttas, keep chanting the Suttas. So when the monk stopped chanting, this Devata didn't have a chance to hear the Dhamma, so he tried to persuade the monk to continue chanting. And the monk said, in the past I was fond of Dhamma stanzas, so long as I had not achieved this passion. But from the time I achieved this passion, I dwell in what the good men call the laying down by final knowledge of whatever is seen, heard or sensed. This is the end of the sutta. So here this monk became an arahant. So when he became an arahant, he says he has put down all that is seen, heard and sensed, no more attached to whatever is seen, whatever is heard, whatever is sensed. So that is why he was no more interested in chanting. An arahant constantly dwells in his mind, goes inwards, no more interested in outside. 9.11. On one occasion, a certain monk was dwelling among the Kosalans in a certain woodland thicket. Now, on that occasion, when that monk had gone for the day's abiding, he kept on thinking evil, unwholesome thoughts, that is, thoughts of sensuality, ill will and harming. Then that Devata that inhabited that woodland thicket, having compassion for that monk, desiring his good, desiring to stir up a sense of urgency in him, approached him and addressed him in verses. Because of attending carelessly, you, sir, are eaten by your thoughts. Having relinquished the careless way, you should reflect carefully. By basing your thoughts on the teacher, on Dhamma, Sangha, and your own virtues, you will surely attain to gladness and rapture and happiness as well. Then when you are suffused with gladness, you will make an end to suffering. Then that monk, stirred up by that Devata, acquired a sense of urgency. So this is another compassionate Devata come to help a monk who was a bit slack in his practice. I think that's enough for today. I've tried to go fast because these suttas, one can go fast because they don't have so much Dhamma in them. Is there anything I'd like to discuss?
What is the triple knowledge and the 6 direct knowledges?
Okay. What are the triple knowledge and the 6 knowledges? These are called the abhinyas. Abhinyas, the higher knowledges. The Buddha himself was, he says in the Suttas, the Buddha says that he was a triple knowledge man. That means, what are the triple knowledge? The first one, he has the Deva eye. Deva eye. So when he has opened up his Deva eye, then he can see Devas, he can talk to Devas, he can see hell and all other realms of existence. That is one. Then another one is recollection of past life. If you remember the Suttas, when the Buddha was enlightened, on the night of enlightenment, he used he attained to the fourth jhana, and coming out from the fourth jhana, when the mind is so tranquil, he used the Deva eye to look at beings being born and dying according to karma. So the first one was Deva eye. Then after that, he recollected his past lives. So the second one is recollection of past lives. The third one, when he recollected on the Dhamma, the Four Noble Truths, then he attained destruction of the asavas. So the third one is the destruction of the asavas. So these are the three knowledges. And then later the Buddha must have cultivated another three knowledges, because the maximum is the 6 knowledges. So the other 3 knowledges are the Deva ear, the divine ear, where you can hear these Devas and ghosts speaking, and then the reading another person's mind, reading other people's mind. And then the last one is Psychokinesis, various types of psychic powers, like walking through the wall, diving into the earth, like diving into water, sitting cross-legged, flying like a bird. And then another one is one body can manifest into hundreds of bodies or thousands of bodies. And then sitting here, his hand can reach out and touch the moon, and touch the sun. This is the last one. So these are the 6 abhinyas, higher knowledges. But out of these 6, the most important is the destruction of the asavas. Once a person destroys the asavas, the uncontrolled mental outflows, he becomes liberated from samsara. No more reborn in samsara. In other words, he becomes enlightened. So when we practice the holy path, our aim is to destroy the asavas. That's the main aim. The psychic powers are secondary. So like just now I read the sutta, approximately 1/4 of the enlightened ones, the arahants, approximately 1/4 of them, when they become enlightened, the psychic powers come naturally, and then the 3/4 of them don't have psychic power. Even though, like Venerable Sariputta, he has developed all the jhanas, and yet he has no psychic power. And also he has no desire to cultivate psychic powers, because there is no more ego, no more self. So because of that, once they become enlightened, if they don't have psychic powers, they just let it be. They don't crave for psychic power. So these are the 6 knowledges. So all arahants will have at least one of the knowledge, which is the destruction of the asavas.
What is the liberation by both ways, liberated in both ways, and while the rest are liberated by wisdom?
This liberated both ways is also liberated by mind. Arahants are liberated 2 ways, either liberated by wisdom or liberated by mind. If you read my book, it is mentioned there, I think in Samatha and Vipassana, my book is mentioned. This liberated by mind is also known as 2 ways liberated. Liberated by mind means liberated by mind as well as liberated by wisdom, whereas the other one is only liberated by wisdom. And from studying the Suttas and the Vinaya books, it is most probably those who are liberated by mind